Right now at noon, a deadly limo crash remains under investigation, and the wife of the driver is sharing the concerns her husband had with the company. And Hurricane Michael is already causing trouble in the Gulf as it approaches the Florida Panhandle.
This is News 3 at noon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Kane. Thanks for joining us. Hurricane Michael is closing in on the Florida Panhandle, and it is still gaining strength. The National Hurricane Center says the storm is packing winds near 150 miles per hour with gusts even higher. Michael expected to make landfall in the next hour or so as the first Category 4 hurricane to ever come ashore in that area. It's expected to dump more than a foot of rain, and forecasters are also worried about a probable 13-foot storm surge. Nearly 400,000 people along the Gulf Coast were urged to evacuate, but officials warn time has run out.
You've waited too long. You've got to hunker down. You've got to get shelter as quickly as you can.
Florida has deployed at least 3,000 National Guard troops. Search and rescue teams from states as far away as Indiana and Pennsylvania are also ready to help once the storm passes. Hurricane Michael already left its mark in parts of Central America. At least 13 people across El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua are dead. The storm dumped nearly a foot of rain on Cuba. Let's head over to the Weather Center now. Meteorologist Dave Caulfield is keeping an eye on things. This is a huge storm.
Yeah, rapidly intensifying over the last couple of days, really from not too much to a Category 4 mammoth of a storm. Let's take a look right now at the current conditions of Hurricane Michael. Wind at about 150 miles per hour, but gusting higher in some spots. It is moving a little bit quicker, compared to, say, Hurricane Florence, which did not move at all. So at least that's good news. But when we have a hurricane that moves this quickly, that means the winds are very strong as well. So that's a major concern. Also, storm surge and some heavy rain in some spots. Speaking of heavy rain, we've been dealing with that over the past couple of days across southern Wisconsin. And we look not too far off to the north and west, and we see a decent snow event going on in some portions of the Dakotas and in portions of Minnesota as well. But for us, we're just dealing with some light rain showers. That rain finally coming to an end. Do I see some blue sky on that camera? I hope I do. On the WISC-TV sky cam overlooking Madison, temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s. Wind speeds a little bit gusty, and those winds will be very gusty as we head into the next couple of days. So temperatures falling through the 70s and 60s into the 50s by later on tonight, and lows will bottom out in the 40s. We'll talk about much cooler weather on the way and the probability, or possibility, I should say, of maybe a hard freeze over the next couple of days in your first alert forecast.
From the tropics to winter.
Yes, exactly. Just like that.
It's Wisconsin, right? All right, Dave, we'll check back in a few minutes. Investigators are looking into whether to pursue criminal charges in the limousine crash that killed 20 people in New York. The wife of the driver says her husband expressed concerns about the safety of the limo company's vehicles. A New York newspaper reported the driver was ticketed in August for not having the proper license to operate the limo. Federal documents also showed the limo he was driving failed an inspection this September. An attorney for the limo company, Prestige Limousine, said the vehicle was deemed road ready after it failed the September inspection, but the New York State Department of Transportation told us in a statement that it is categorically false. The limo was carrying a group of young people to a 30th birthday party when it drove through a stop sign Saturday and crashed into a ditch, killing 20 people.
I feel for these victims. I feel for them. I am in no way trying to make it seem like it's about me or my husband. I just want my husband to be vindicated.
Another vigil for the victim scheduled for tonight at the Country Store near the scene of the crash. Milwaukee police say 2 officers shot at an armed suspect this morning. Officers responding to a shots fired call earlier this morning. When they arrived on the scene, witnesses told them that someone was firing shots at an apartment. Milwaukee's police chief says the officers ordered him to drop the guy to drop his weapon, and when he refused, they began shooting. Multiple weapons were recovered at the scene. Police are trying to see if more than one shooter was involved. No word on how the suspect is doing. Police in Monona are holding a community meeting later today after a couple of shooting incidents in recent weeks in that community. Officers want to give people a chance to ask them questions about recent incidents like the fight near La Follette High School that turned into a shooting and the teenager who brought a gun onto a Metro bus. Police also will let people living in those nearby neighborhoods what they can do to help reduce crime. The meeting starts at 6 o'clock this evening at the Monona City Hall conference room. The results from the latest Marquette Law School poll are being released as we speak. These will give candidates in the next month's midterm election a clearer picture of where they stand. The previous poll showed Democrat Tony Evers leading Governor Scott Walker by 5 points and Senator Tammy Baldwin leading challenger Leah Vukmir by 11 points. The margin of error in that poll was 4 percentage points, and this is the last Marquette poll before next month's election. And those poll results are coming out at the same time Vice President Mike Pence arrives in Wisconsin. He's taking part in 2 different fundraisers for the Republican Party and his friend Governor Scott Walker. One is at the Oneida Golf and Country Club, the other in Eau Claire. Vice President Pence was last in Wisconsin in August to stump for U.S. Senate candidate Leah Vukmir. There's more to come on News 3 at noon. Up next, we'll see what Howard's working on in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
What's the key to the best banana bread ever? The secret is coming up next. Everyone seems to have their favorite banana bread recipe. Some like to add chocolate chips, while others insist it's not prize-worthy unless there are walnuts in it. Now, we think both of those are good options, but without really ripe bananas, nothing else matters. If your bananas aren't ripe, place them on a baking sheet and pop them in a warm oven or toaster oven for 15 to 20 minutes, and before you know it, they're perfect. Then we place them in a bowl and beat them until they are the consistency of baby food. We beat in some sugar and let them sit for a few minutes. Allowing them to sit actually brings out their natural sugars. Now we add some applesauce, which lightens it up, along with a couple of eggs and mix it before adding our basic dry ingredients and a splash of vanilla. This goes into a loaf pan and then into a 350-degree oven for about 50 minutes, or until it passes a toothpick test. By now, your tongue is probably hanging out of your mouth since your kitchen smells so darn good. And whether you slather on some butter or eat it as is, I can promise this is gonna disappear quick. As always, you can get the recipe online. Just look for the recipe of the day, which we call Bapple Bread, since it's the combo of two of our favorites, bananas and apples. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a super moist way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
All right, Howard, thank you. Coming up at noon, a gray and dreary day for us in southern Wisconsin. Dave has our first alert forecast. Well, let's get some breaks in the clouds. That's coming up after the break. Well, U-Haul wants to help those affected by Hurricane Michael and Christmas in the fall. Here's Diane King Hall with today's Money Watch report.
U-Haul is stepping up to help people in the path of Hurricane Michael. The company is offering residents impacted by the storm 30 days of free self-storage at 28 facilities. The facilities helping out are in Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, and Alabama. Meanwhile, fewer people signed on the dotted line to buy a home last week. According to the Mortgage Bankers Association, mortgage application activity fell 1.7%. The drop in demand came as borrowing costs moved higher. Banks are racking up the ATM fees. Bankrate.com says non-customers are paying a record amount in surcharges. The average fee tops $3 this year, rising for the 14th year in a row. That is also more than 50% jump over the past decade. And it's too early for some people to talk holidays. Coinstar's annual holiday survey found a third of people are irritated when retailers put up holiday decorations and merchandise as early as September or October. And there are some holiday secrets people confess to. A fourth of people view gift giving as a sport, admitting to being competitive about it. And about a fifth say they feel guilty about regifting, but the majority do. And that's your CBS Money Watch report. For more, head to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Diane King Hall.
All right, Jan, thank you. The Dow Industrials down 382 points at the noon hour. The NASDAQ down 186. Let's check in now with Q106 Farm Director Pam Yankee. I hope your numbers are better than those.
No. Tell New York City Dave all eyes are on him, and that includes commodities, because we're watching the developments with the hurricane, and we're also inundated with rain in the upper Midwest. The latest crop progress report that was released yesterday shows that even in Wisconsin, we're really falling behind as far as the soybean harvest is concerned. We've got about 17% of our soybeans that have been combined off or harvested already, and that is 5 days behind. 5 days behind last year, 2 days behind our 5-year average. So there's a lot of concern out there on just exactly when we're going to get going on the harvest. About 14% of our corn has been harvested for grain, and the average moisture on that corn, about 23%. I was talking again this morning with some of my area agronomists, and they say we're going to be forced this year to just try to harvest when we can harvest, no matter the moisture on that plant. But again, looking at the energy stocks, crude oil continues to click higher. Our diesel price, which we use a lot of at this time of the year to harvest, and the propane, which we use to dry down that grain, still exceptionally expensive for farmers. So they are really caught in a tough spot when it comes to the harvest of 2018. Also, yesterday, one brighter spot, the president announced that by next year he'd like to see E15 blended fuel allowed basically year-round. It's something that we hadn't been seeing during the summer, but now he said he wants that option at the pump. Doug Rebout, who's a Janesville farmer and president of the Wisconsin Corn Growers, said that he's very happy to see that. He says it opens up new markets for farmers here and also gives consumers a clean alternative at the pump. And you can also usually save money with E15 like E85. Today, barrel cheese in Chicago is up 0.5 cents at 136.5. 40-pound block cheese also up 0.5 at 166. But the AA butter, despite the fact that we're on the precipice of holiday baking, down 2 1/4 at 222 3/4. So like I said, you tell New York City Dave, all eyes are on him. It's not just what we're going to live with in Wisconsin. It's what that hurricane's going to do all around the South for those farmers too.
Yeah, and a frost coming our way.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah, like they say, you can't shoot the messenger, but there's moments when you'd like to.
All right, well, we won't.
No.
Thank you, Pam. New York City Dave standing by. The lights are bright on Broadway.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to say to that, unfortunately. I have been described as a hot commodity before by myself, but that's about it.
Yourself.
Yeah, it's a self-proclaimed title there. But yeah, the hurricane, very, very serious in portions of Florida and then into Georgia and all up the East Coast to Carolina. And for us, we've been dealing with heavy rain ourselves the last couple of months, but especially for the last 48 hours or so. And the clouds really have not left us since this weekend. It really has not been a very sunny stretch, that is for sure. Doppler track is showing some good news, though. That's the thing that I want to highlight here, because we do have that rain really breaking up and just some very, very light showers across portions of southern Wisconsin. However, that rain really has done its damage, because over the last 48 hours, some spots, especially across southwestern Wisconsin, picked up an estimated 4 to 5 inches of rain. Just the opposite of what the doctor ordered, that's for sure. Platteville, though, we are starting to see those clouds on the Queen Bee Radio Skycam start to break up just a little bit, but they're going to be here for this afternoon. But the rain won't be here for much longer, and that's the good news. Downtown Madison on the Edgewater Skycam, we still do have some raindrops here and there. Forecast high today, 72. Normal is 61, and those temperatures really will be taking a nosedive as we head into the rest of this week. October precipitation, it really feels like it's been constantly raining, and that's because this graphic shows it basically has been constantly raining. Only the 4th of this month has been dry. Temperatures over the last hour have stayed in the 60s in Madison, upper 60s in Lone Rock and Mineral Point, 70 right now in Janesville. Our high temperature trend, look at that. Our graphic is having a tough time with how far that temperature is dropping. So today's high of 72, way down into the mid 40s for highs, folks, over the next couple of days. And if we're lucky, we may get back into the 50s for highs. And with the temperature drop comes the threat of some more frost and maybe even a light freeze for some of us. Those temperatures really dipping close to 32 over the next 5 days or so. So we'll definitely have to watch that closely. Our fall color report, with these temperatures going down, it's really going to accelerate a lot of the leaves changing, and we already have a lot of spots close to peak, or at least getting there in a lot of spots. So I would say we're near peak, with the forecast peak still about a week to 2 weeks away, depending on where you are in the state. So future track showing those showers moving out, maybe a few residual showers later this afternoon, but really not a lot to worry about. Temperatures dipping into the low 40s to start Thursday, and then those clouds finally get out of here and don't come back for a while, okay? Because we definitely need that sunshine. Temperatures only in the mid 40s for highs, and then into the low 30s, close to the freezing mark. And some of us could start the morning hours over the next couple of days in the 20s, not out of the question. So much cooler over the next couple of days, with some rain chances coming back on Sunday and Tuesday. But overall, we're looking at some fall temperatures coming back in a big way and staying with us as we head into the middle of October. So if you're a fan of the pumpkin spice lattes, all that good stuff, you're finally getting a good stretch of weather for that.
Good. I like fall.
Yeah.
My favorite season.
Yeah,
all right.
it's fun.
Thank you, Dave. We'll be right back. Well, Good Housekeeping is out with its annual Best Toy Awards for 2018. Kenneth Craig got a look at the finalists and the kids who put the contenders to the test.
Questions, let let us know.
At 7 years old, Avery Confressi is an official toy tester. Sporting a lab coat and with a score sheet in hand, she's part of the young team picking the coolest toys on the market.
You take your job very seriously. I can tell. What do you think about wearing that lab coat?
It makes me feel very smart.
Get set!
Avery is one of 100 children deployed every year at Good Housekeeping's Toy Lab, assessing the fun factor on dozens of gadgets, from this wind-up toy motorcycle to this crayon melter.
If you press the nose and
Rachel Rotham oversees the testing as chief technologist at the Good Housekeeping Institute.
they're scientists for the day. They come in here and we do ask them certain questions.
Would you play with it again, like at home? Yeah.
And each of them get to fill out the scores and any other insights and information.
Before the kids get their hands on the toys, real engineers make sure they meet safety standards and do a drop test to be certain they won't shatter into small hazardous pieces. After the children provide their feedback, the toys were narrowed down to a list of just 28, broken down into 3 groups by price.
One of the biggest trends this year was pet care.
Nearly a third of the hottest toys of the year are animal-related, including this puppy that does tricks, these interactive plush pets, and these mystery fur balls that kids can wash and bring to life.
And what were the kids saying about this?
Kids were loving it.
It was one of Avery's favorites, which helped it secure a spot as one of the best toys of the year. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, New York.
How do you get that job?
I don't know, but
great job.
That would be really awesome. And with Christmas about 2 months away, my wife started talking about shopping, and I was like, what are you doing?
Gonna start feeling like Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. With these temperatures dipping very, very far down into the 40s and 50s. Right now, we're still in the 60s with a few light showers still out there, but that rain will be coming to an end this afternoon. Temperatures staying in the 60s will dip into the upper 30s in some spots to start off tomorrow.
And the sun's coming out.
Yes, finally.
All right, that's the good news. We'll see you back here at 4 o'clock. Have a great afternoon.
Making plans that are weather dependent? Get an accurate 12-hour, even a 10-day forecast. Download the Channel 3000 First Alert Weather app and start planning.